Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Yellow Kings podcast, a podcast hosted by your trulies, Mei Ming Duck and Toy Young Kim. And this is out there for all the aspiring Yellow Kings and Queens out there. How's it going, Thomas?
It's going well, man. It's a good day to have a good day. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. Happy Wednesday once again. So today's topic that we want to talk about is traumatic things or experiences we had as kids. And it doesn't necessarily need to be like Asian traumatic things, but just like, things we grew up with that now, like, we looking back, we're like, oh, this kind of fucked me up. And we're trying to like unpack it and think about and be like, okay, how has this experience kind of like shaped my perspective of like how I view the world, and like, is that right or is that wrong? Cause I think like we're both entering like our mid to late 20s, and we're starting to think about like, oh, why are we the way we are? And like, why do we care about certain things? And I think a lot of it does bleed down to like our childhood, like, so I don't know if we go to therapy or not, but I go to therapy, and not just therapy, but I watch a lot of like therapeutic YouTube videos as well.
Yeah.
And people just talk about like, yeah, things that you've been through as kids, like it really just kind of shape like kind of like how you are as an adult. And like, I see it not only in myself, but also other people I talk to. So
Yeah.
I guess just to like, no, let's do this. Fuck it. Starting from you. What are
Sure,
some things
sure.
that you experienced as kids? Again, doesn't necessarily have to be traumatic, but just like has shaped the way you view the world today.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, so I'll be honest, just like starting off the bat, definitely did not have that like traumatic of a childhood. I was in like I had a very cushy I had a great childhood. Shout out to my mom and dad. Love them. They did so much for me and continue to do so much for me now. But I think there are definitely a few things that kind of I carry with me to this day. Number one is obviously placing a really big value on education and honestly being a very success-driven individual. I don't know if you keep up with like all the personality tests out there, but like Enneagrams is a super, super popular one. And
Which one are you? Which one are you?
I think I'm the results-driven one. I think that's 4 or 3. Which one is? I think that's 3. And then
Not the 16. Is that the 16 personality one or?
I don't know. No, I think that's MBTI. I think that's a Myers-Briggs one.
Maybe Myers-Briggs, yeah, the one with no scientific backing at all.
Yeah, exactly. But TLDR, what these personality tests have told me, and I always get, is the fact that I am very results-driven, goal-oriented person. So I think both to like that's definitely my greatest strength, but also my greatest weakness. Where like I never congratulate myself. I feel like a failure every single day that I wake up, and a lot to unpack there, which is pretty shitty. But so that's a big one. And then I think another one. This is like a little bit more personal. Is the fact that I feel like how like Asian households kind of teach you to like what is it like always finish your food no matter what. Always have to finish your food, no waste, no leftover. And I understand why they did that because Asia 50 years ago was like kind of deserted wasteland where like food was so scarce. Yeah, exactly. We were getting raided and like in battling and all that stuff. And I think I definitely grew up in a household. Go on.
Sorry. Have you watched Beef yet? Have you watched Beef?
Yeah, I did. I have watched Beef.
We can talk about this. I haven't finished it yet because my girlfriend took fucking forever to catch up. But in the first episode, when Stephen Young looked at a picture, he's like, "Oh, he's Japanese." Every single Asian understood that joke. Every single Asian knew what he was talking about.
Yep. Oh my god, that was a really funny moment. But yeah, phenomenal show. Definitely gotta watch it.
Yeah. All right, continue on.
Oh yeah. So yeah, just like in that like scarcity mindset of always having to finish your food. I think for the longest time I had a really unhealthy relationship with food in general, and I think it actually led to me during college. I was actually kind of bulimic, which is pretty fucked up, and I should have gone to therapy for it. But like luckily, I'm well past that now. At least I like to think. But I do think a lot of that was rooted in the fact that like looking to food as like a coping mechanism, overeating, not wasting any food. So that was something that I've still like. For the most part, I've unpacked it. So I think, and I feel like there are definite roots in being in that scarcity mindset of having to finish everything that you eat. It's not the main motivating factor, but I definitely think there's like some seeds in there. But those are the two main ones that I kind of have off the top of my head. What about you? Like, what are some of the traumatic or non-traumatic experiences that you had as a kid that you carry with you to this day?
So, all right. I don't think I had like a traumatic childhood as well. Like I think I used to, but now like as I'm getting older, I'm looking back at like what my parents had, what they had to dispose on stuff. I'm like, dude, I had a pretty fucking good childhood. I had pretty fucking good childhood, right? Like, there are things that could have gone better, things that could have like, not had happened to me. But overall, like, no, it was a good childhood. Like I grew up in like a solid middle class family. Like I never had to worry about food on table. Both my parents worked pretty like nice white collar jobs. So honestly, not too much to complain about, but I will say, similar to you and many other Asian households, education is very, very heavy emphasized in our family. But but it's almost like, all right, I'll tell you why why it's like even more emphasized in my family. I feel like because my dad's a professor in university. He's a university professor in Double E, right? So growing up, education was always something that was super, super pushed on us. But then my dad would always be like, going like, oh, your dad went to like the #1 school in Taiwan. I studied the #1 degree and I was always #1 in my class. By the way, which is complete fucking bullshit, by the way. He definitely wasn't #1, but he was probably in the top like 5%, right? I'll give him that. I'll give him that. He was probably top 5%, okay? But I don't think he was #1, all right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like education was really, really heavily emphasized in my household, both from like my mom, my dad. So from my dad's side, like he'll always talk about like how he was like #1 and how like everything you have to do is like if it's not #1, it is bad, right? He didn't never like explicitly said that, but just from like talking about like #1 this, #1 that, I always had this feeling that like unless I was tier 1, #1 or tier 1, I was a failure. Right. And I think that really carried me throughout my life, in which like because I think like when I was applying for jobs, when I was applying for schools, I had this obsession, like everyone else did, but I feel like I had this like unhealthy obsession that like I needed to be in a tier 1. I need to be #1 at what I did, which is honestly very unhealthy because by definition, there is only one #1. So what happens to 90% everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And I think like that's something I'm trying to unpack recently, where it's like, why do I feel like I need to be in this tier 1? If I'm not tier 1, then I'm not successful, right? If I'm not #1, then I'm not successful. Like for example, like it took me a long time to like admit this, but like for the longest time, even though I broke into investment banking, I felt like I was a failure because I didn't work at like a traditional bulge bracket bank, right? I didn't work at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, right? I didn't work at Bank of America or whatever. I worked at a very solid like investment bank. It was good. It's like ranked like very highly up there. It's a bank that a lot of people like die to get into, basically, right? They're very competitive to get into. But I'm just like, but it's not tier 1. It's not tier 1. Yeah. So forever, I just thought that I was a failure, even though like I broke into this highly competitive industry. And like for the longest time, I'm just like, why did I feel that way? Why did I feel that way about myself? Like it's just like it kind of eats at me and stuff. And then it's just because like I think as a kid, like it was very emphasized that like if you weren't #1, tier 1, it was like bad. It wasn't good. So that's one part. The second part, and this is kind of just a funny story that like I still tell to this day. Like I tell my girlfriend and stuff, which is like, when I was in elementary school, fuck it, I'll say his name. This is a compliment, man. This is a kid in our class. His name was called Edwin. All right. And like,
that's a smart name. That's a smart ass name, dude.
Oh yeah. His name is called Edwin. All right. Then anyone from my school in Taiwan will immediately know what I'm talking about. Immediately. All right. So Edwin was a kid in class. All right. Did super well. He ended up going to Brown University. Very smart kid. Went to Ivy League and stuff. Right.
Solid.
But he was always the kid in class where all your parents, including my mom, would be like, you should hang out with him more. Right. So you can pick his brain and become more like him. Right. So in my entire life, I always felt like I needed to be him because he was a smart kid in class. Right. He got A's. He was like that typical like prototype Asian kid where it's like very smart, kind of quiet, kind of shy, but just did well in school. Didn't really cause a ruckus or anything. Right. Like very ideal Asian kid, especially growing up in Asia as well. Dude, I want to be this guy so badly because like not just my mom, but everyone else was like, he was like the shiny star kid in class. Everyone's like, you should be like this guy. That like so we all used to play RuneScape. His RuneScape username was KillerEX777, right? I literally stole his username and I own that shit today. Like,
Oh my God.
my Gmail that I use to this day is this RuneScape username, and a lot of my online personas and a lot of like other games I end up playing afterwards, like my IGN, my in-game name was his RuneScape username because I want to be him so badly.
Wow.
I want to be him. I stole his name.
Damn.
So today, the identity of Killer EX777 is actually my name now, not his name. You know,
Dude,
I
he
took his
lived,
identity. But it was him. It was
rent-free
him.
in your head.
Oh, he was living out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was. I was paying him to live in my head, dude. I was paying that guy to live in my head, basically.
Oh my God.
And I was that kid where all the parents were like, "You shouldn't hang around Andrew too much, dude." I think.
No.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I was ranked third to last in my class when I was in Taiwan. I was ranked third to last. My class of 30 kids, I was ranked third to last. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Damn.
I won't say I was a fuck up, but I don't know. I never tried. I never tried that hard. Never applied myself. Because I feel like when you're, this is why I'm eternally grateful that I came to America. Again, I'm not saying like education, whatever, like education success and all that stuff is indicative of like life success, right? But I think moving to America did allow me to like, in a way, turn my life around. Because like when I was like in Taiwan, I was forever stuck in the mindset that like I am the dumb kid and Edwin was a smart kid. And it wasn't because like I was stupid. I think it was just because like it just ended up being like that, and I thought I was stupid. So I just never tried that hard in school. I spent all my time playing fucking RuneScape and Maple Story and shit.
Oh my God. Love Maple
No
Story.
regrets, by the
Holy
way.
shit.
A lot of that's an entire conversation itself.
Oh my God. Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, when I came to States, it kind of like I had like my Gatsby moment, you know, like, oh, I can reinvent myself here. Like I'm a new person. No one knows me here. I can be like a new kid that like I have no title to me. Like there's no label on me yet. And it really gave me a chance to be like, I want to start working hard. I want to start trying in school. And you know, I mean, I wasn't number one, but you know, I definitely did well in high school and college. So that's why I'm grateful. I'm grateful for coming to the States. I really am.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, I was going to say you definitely like turned it all around because, I mean, you crushed it in college and even to get into that school, you had to do well in high school as well. So that definitely seems like a really pivotal moment for you. And I guess what's interesting, I don't want to say this to like flex, but admittedly, I think like throughout high school, I was Edwin, I think, for a lot of kids because I think my entire identity throughout high school was the kid that did really well in school, always excelled, had his shit together. And to top it all off, I wasn't like socially awkward. I was actually quite sociable and like got along with like a lot of people as well. And was like, I would say, I know, like relatively popular in high school. But then I only say that to say like, and then, you know, obviously I checked off the box. I didn't get valedictorian in high school. I got salutatorian. I went to a great college. I went to an Ivy League like Edwin as well. But then all that to say, it's like once I got to this Ivy League school, I think I mentioned it in a previous episode, but like I was really struggling, and I think my entire identity was based off of this idea that I was smart, I was crushing it, I was doing well. Then I started not doing well and not crushing it, and I had like the first time in my life I had a huge identity crisis. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is literally me. This is not me anymore. Like who am I? Like what am I gonna, you know, root my identity to if it's not academics? And that was like a whole like soul searching journey of like really failing for the very first time in my life in terms of academics. And it was super hard. And luckily I got around it, and you know, obviously I've done well for myself since college, but it's definitely made me change my perception of need to be number one to be successful. You know, you definitely don't. And I think even more so now, like being on social media, I would say most of the people that I look up to in terms of the entrepreneurial world, because that's what I want to do right now, like build my own businesses, build my own startups. The vast majority of them did not go to like a phenomenal school. Like they kind of went to no-name schools and they crushed it. So it's interesting how my perspective has really changed, because if you were to ask me who I would look up to like my freshman year of college, it would definitely not be the same people that I say right now.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, by the way, just wanted to say, if you're listening to this this is actually not a free podcast. I know all the other podcasts out there are completely free, but this one, there is a price to pay. We make this content for free for you, and the way that you pay for this is actually by going over to our YouTube page, Yellow Kings, and get to subscribe to us and follow us on Spotify as well. You know, this is just an implicit agreement. You didn't know when you came in to listen to it, but it is what it is, you know. So look, we can't be there looking over your shoulder making sure this happens, but we trust you. We trust you, our aspiring Yellow Kings and Queens coming into our Yellow royalty. So come on in, hit the subscribe button, hit that follow, and you know, do us a favor. All right.
I think it's like, so, you know, sorry, I burped there.
You're good.
You had something to lose, you know?
Yeah.
Right? I had something to gain. You had something to lose. And I think it's almost like I kind of became that guy in college too, where it's like, it's a scary feeling where it's like, so when I was a sophomore in college, actually not me, someone else, so I roomed with this guy, very, very smart guy. To this day, I think he's one of the smartest guys I know. Software engineering guy. Like, been coding for like 5, 6, 10 years already. Not 10 years, but like 5, 6 years already. And he was so stressed out in his sophomore year, about potentially his not getting a internship at Google in his sophomore year, right? I'm just like, dude, number one, you're probably going to get it. Number two, even if you don't get it, like, why does it matter? You're a sophomore. You can intern at like another like tech company and you probably get in your junior year. Like, why does it matter so much you get in your sophomore year? But then like now as I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, you want to know why? Because he has wrapped his identity in, that's what I think this is the reason why. He has wrapped his identity in the fact that like, I am that smart CS software kid. So that if he doesn't end up getting this internship, it will basically crush his identity. It'll be like, then what am I? If I'm not this guy, then what am I? Right? Yeah. So he needed to get that in order to, I guess, fortify the idea that like, yes, I am smart. Yes, I am this guy that I believe that I am to be, which is kind of a scary thing. Right?
Totally.
And it's like, you probably watch a lot of Alex Hormozi, right?
Not as much, but I watch a good amount. Yeah.
Yeah, so something Alex Hormozi talks about a lot is that like we tend to put labels on ourselves about like I am this so that I am this, right? And recently I've been trying to like unlabel myself, right? Because I feel like throughout my life I've been trying to label myself as like the engineer, or afterwards I'm like, fuck it, I'm the banker. Right after that, I'm like, no, I'm the creator, right? Which is fine. I mean, I think as human beings, like we're communal creatures. We want to have identity. So like people, like number one, we label other people. Let's be real for a second. We label other people as well. But it's like, I think it's very deadly when we start to label ourselves, because then we start being like, if I am not this person, then what am I, right? Like I need to do everything that's in line with what this person will do. And recently I'm just like, fuck that shit, dude. Why does it need to be in line with what label you give yourself? Right, because I think for a long time, like I label myself certain things, and I get so stressed out when I don't follow like that path. I'm just like, but this is not what this person will do.
Wow.
Right.
I totally.
Did you ever struggle like labeling yourself?
Oh my god, 1,000%. And even now, I'm like gotten a lot better. Oh my god, like I've gotten a lot better at it, but I still fall into that same trap. And I think for me, the label that I put, because like I mentioned earlier, my entire identity was based off like doing well in school. Now it's transitioned a little bit more. There was a phase where I was like, I'm a software engineer, right? But now it's transitioned a little bit more into being like, I'm a dude that I work hard. I'm a hard worker. I will put in the work no matter what. And I think that's a much looser label for me that it expands to like a lot of different domains, you know? But I still definitely grapple with my identity as a software engineer, because I feel like, especially lately, for people that go to like a good school, become a software engineer, works at Google, like the next logical step is you go to Y Combinator and you build a startup, you know? And I think, if I'm being honest with myself right now, I think if you were to be like, yo, would you rather have a startup that makes like $1 billion unicorn startup, but you have to manage an entire company of like 500 employees? Or if you can just build your own company, one employee, maybe one partner to do it with you, and you make $10 million instead? Honestly, I think I kind of would prefer just me and one other person working together for a lot less money, because I just think that's more fun. I don't like the big company thing. Even if I'm at the head of it, I don't think it would be fun. I could be wrong. I've never done it, but I just don't think it would be that fun. But I think I still grapple with that, because it's like, oh no, but like I'm supposed to want to do that. I'm supposed to want to go to Y Combinator. I'm supposed to want to build a venture-backed startup for $1 billion.
That's what everyone talks about.
Yeah, it's like everyone circle jerks it. And but if I'm being honest with myself, I don't I don't think that's what I want. I would much rather build a super lean small team where we just build products that cash flow really hard. And but I guess I feel there's a part of me that feels like I'm not living up to my potential if I'm doing that, even though that's what I really want. And the reason why I feel that way is because my label as a Ivy League graduate, ex Google software engineer, I feel like I should be wanting that, but I don't. I'm still grappling with that. TLDR, I've gone a lot better with labeling myself and doing things that I'm supposed to do, but I still struggle with it every now and then, for sure.
Yeah. It's like I have to do this because like I'm a software engineer, so like the next natural step is like, oh, so what startup idea are you thinking of? It's like, what do you mean? What if I don't want to build a startup, right? What if I don't want to do it? But then like everyone naturally like thinks about it because everyone else is talking about it. So everyone's like, oh yeah, I have to start. But I'm pretty sure like every single one of your software engineering friends has either talked about it or has thought about like, oh yeah, like I'm thinking about building an app. Or it's like, oh, that's like something I'm considering doing and stuff, right? Probably every single one of your colleagues at Google talked about it.
Yeah. Well, actually, surprisingly, no. Most of my colleagues at Google, they were resting investing. They're like, I don't want to do a startup. That's the last thing that I want to do. And like even my coworkers right now, I actually asked them around. I'm like, yeah, any interest in startups, you guys? And they're like, no, that's not what I want to do. They're like, yeah, doing a startup is too much bitch work, dude. I don't want to do that. I just want to code and like I don't want to do other things outside of that. But I would say a large portion, I do have like a certain peer group that is very into the whole startup space where they are like that, where that's what we shoot the shit about all the time about, building businesses. But yeah, a lot to unpack. Still in the process of unpacking it, but have gotten a lot better at it for sure.
Let's wrap up this question then. So what is something that you were either told, kind of just going back to the original topic that we were talking about, you were told as a kid that now you're like, that you used to believe to be true? You can take something to think about. We can edit it. So what are some things as a kid that you used to believe were true, but now you're like, that's not true?
All right. I have two off the top of my head. One of them, I feel like every Asian kid gets told this, but basically the only jobs you can do are being a lawyer, doctor, or engineer. Actually, for me, it wasn't even an engineer. It was just lawyer or doctor. And I come from a family where both of my parents are physicians, so definitely very chill, upper middle class upbringing. And I think that was really kind of instilled in me earlier on. And then now, obviously, I didn't do either of them, and I'm doing, I like to say, quite well for myself right now. And I just feel like, don't get me wrong, I think they're really admirable career paths to go down, but I think that there are too many, particularly Asian kids, that don't even dare to explore other careers that they would potentially like more. They're just on autopilot, And I think like there are definitely some people who go into medicine and law after a lot of like deep introspection and really realizing like, yes, like I thought about it, this is actually what I want to do. Whereas a lot of other people, they don't even think about that, or they lie to themselves, telling themselves that they did think about that and did consider other career options when they never really did in the first place, and they're just living life on autopilot. And my words of advice out there to other people that are maybe going through this process or early in college or even high school, really, really ask yourself, do a deep dive. Is that what you really want? Like there's so many other interesting careers out there that you should definitely try to explore. So that's a more serious one, a more silly topic. I don't know why my parents, I grew up playing piano as a kid. I was a piano kid, obviously. Or violin, it's another popular one. But as a kid, my parents, whenever I said I wanted to quit piano, which I actually never ended up doing. I actually played all the way through high school.
No.
And I was pretty good. I was pretty good. I was actually legitimately quite good. But growing up, they were like, if you want to go to college, you have to play an instrument. You can't get into college if you don't play an instrument. And I remember I told that to this one white kid in middle school whose parents went to USC, and they looked at me and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't have to play an instrument to get into college. And I was like, what? And that blew my mind. And I talked to my parents about it. I was like, wait, but mom, dad, you told me you have to play piano to get into college. And they're like, okay, you kind of do, but you don't have to. And I was like, oh my God. So that's just such a core memory for me. Or this white kid was like, bro, you're fucking crazy. You don't have to play an instrument. I was like, what the hell?
Dude, that's so awesome though, that you know how to play piano still.
I mean, okay, granted, I
Right.
haven't touched the keys in like over a decade right now, but it's enough to. It's like I've done it long enough. Where you give me a piano, give me some sheet music, give me a couple weeks, I can. There in my prime, there is not a single song that I was like that's too difficult to play. Like I've played all the like really really challenging pieces, and I'm
Damn,
sure I can do
dude.
that now. I just need to like practice and get back into it. You know.
Damn, dude, you were that perfect Asian kid, dude.
I was Edwin. I was Edwin, bro.
You're Edwin, dude. I played piano for 2 years. I hated it so much, and I just told my mom, I'm not doing this shit anymore. My mom was like, okay, cool, and we stopped playing piano. And to this day,
So
one of my
chill.
biggest regrets is I should have kept on playing piano. I think it would be so cool to just be able to play a musical instrument right now. Just sit down, and be like. Oh yeah, I'm feeling myself today, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you just like bang
Yeah.
something out. It's like I can't do that. You know?
What I realized, I think my
Yeah.
parents, whenever I wanted to quit, my parents would always tell me, Thomas, you're gonna regret it. Like, trust me, I'm right. You're gonna regret this, and when you're older, if you don't know how to play an instrument. I was like, what are you talking about, Mom? I'm never gonna be thankful for this. But right now, I'm like, I realize my parents have a very strong track record of being right. Like, I trust my parents. They're right very, very often. So I'm really thankful for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But
Okay,
that's another
interesting.
topic we can get into. But what about you? What is your preconceived notions that you believed growing up in childhood that's affected you, that you still carry with you
Yeah.
to this day?
So another thing about my parents. So my parents, especially my dad or my mom, used to like when we're driving down the street in Taiwan or whatever. There's like a lot of these like fried chicken stands, right? People selling chicken and stuff. And my dad would be like, Andrew, if you don't study well in school, you don't do well in school, you're gonna grow up and end up selling fried chicken like this guy, right? So I grew up with the idea that like I was above these people and that I was better than them, right? In a kind of like a social like elitist way, even though like we're just like fucking middle class, right? But it's like it's the idea of like you know like oh I'm better than these people. Like they didn't do well
Yeah.
in school, they didn't work hard, so I am by definition better than them in life. But
Yeah.
and this is why I'm so thankful that like when I left my investment banking job, I actually ended up working at Boa Shop. Because when I worked
Yeah.
at Boa Shop, I had a chance first time to have coworkers that were like immigrants, like first generation Latino immigrants that just came here from Mexico, can barely speak English. And just interacting with
Yeah.
them, like you're just like, I'm not better than these people. I am not better than
Yeah.
them. They're smart,
Yeah.
they're funny, they have families, they have emotions, they care about things. They just came here 5 years ago. They don't speak the language. They don't. I may be more knowledgeable than them. I may have been in a better position than them, but I'm not better than them by any means. Like
Yeah.
you put me in their spot, I'd probably be in the same place today. I probably would be.
Yeah.
So who am I to say
sure,
I'm better
for
than you?
sure.
Who am I to say? I have more privilege. I have more privilege. I have access to better education. I have access to better wealth, better parents that understood better. So yeah, I think that's something that I recently unpacked in the past like 5 years. It's just like I'm
Wow.
not better than people. I'm not. You know, and it's been like a very eye-opening experience.
I
Yeah.
totally feel that. Yeah. No, I think definitely throughout college, that was one of my biggest eye-opening moments as well. Just, I think before college, I never really realized the privilege that I grew up with. But then throughout college and I'm meeting people from more diverse backgrounds, that's when I really did realize, like, damn, like, I'm not that special. I was just privileged, you know? Like, that's a huge portion of my success. I mean, granted, I worked hard, but, like, a huge portion of it was the
Yeah.
fact that I was born in a good household, good education, that was financially stable. And it's like, yeah, I just got lucky with that.
Yeah. All right, guys. This wraps up another episode of the Yellow Kings podcast. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you in the next one.